Okie dokie. One of the many ways of making fairly simple, straightforward selections and masks inside of Photoshop are these two guys here. If I go to select, colour range and focus area, and what I'm going to do is concentrate for the moment on colour range. Now, my sole intention in this particular exercise is to focus in on these this pair of red slippery slip-on girly shoesies type thingies, and basically change their colour. And in order to do that, we've got to isolate them from the rest of the image. Okay, so we need to make a selection, and what we're going to do is make a selection based on colour. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is pick up my colour picker tool, and I'm going to make a selection inside. You don't want to know I won't, not inside, because I'm not working at 100% because I'm a naughty boy, and I might pick up that black in there. So what I'm going to do is just click on the front of one of the shoes, and then we will open the colour range selection tool. Right, now then, I'm going to turn this off just for a minute and try and explain to you what on earth goes on with this particular tool and the controls you have inside the tools dialog box. Now, we have first of all up here select sampled colours, or we can go and choose to select all the reds. And as you can see, bearing in mind that we are talking about masking and white reveals and black conceals, I don't know about you, but I can't see much white anywhere in there. Not true full-blown white. So what that is indicating straight away is that there isn't a single pure red in those shoes, these placards here, or anything. It is a mixture of colours. So this is why you've got to be careful when you say when you try and get specific about what colours you are trying to select. You know, we could say, right, highlights. Oh gosh, there's too many highlights in there. And basically these have all got their uses, don't get me wrong, but at the end of the day we want some tight control, so we're on about sampled colours. Now, we have this control here called fuzziness, and basically if you think of the colour red, yeah, and then if we try and move away from red, if we move away from it in one direction, we come to, well, let's just go and have a look, shall we? And just let's cancel this out for a minute and go and have a look at what I'm talking about. As we move from red one way, we'll come towards yellow. Yeah, so if we had a lot of in one direction, and of course you think of this as a straightened out colour wheel, so if we move away from red in the other direction, we come in and we start choosing magentas, and we're moving from red to blue. So think of the fuzziness slider as how much either side of the sampled colour, let's say we were sampling pure red, how fuzzy that selection is. In other words, how far either side of true red the colours that we're selecting are going to be. I hope you've sort of got that. That's sort of the best way I can think of explaining it without showing you a colour wheel. So anyway, we'll go ahead and click cancel, and we'll bring up that dialog box again for the colour range tool. And so turn that localised colour clusters off again, because I need to just finish explaining this to you. So we've got a fuzziness setting of 157 here. So it's sampling a heck of a sight. Well, it's not sampling. It's actually taking into account and selecting either wholly or partially lots of colours to the left and to the right of that particular reddish hue of those shoes or slippers that we sampled. So if we drop the fuzziness slider, see if I take it all the way down, you can see these shoes are bright white, which, remember, when we went to to select the reds, there was no bright whites anywhere. So go back to sampled colours, but you can see it's all too aggressive and it's just either black or white. There's no leeway. Yeah, so you usually find that there's a good starting point. The fuzziness slider, set to somewhere between 30 and 35, starts to produce or yield good results. But as you can see, we've still got a huge area of hues and tones selected in this area, in this entire image. So what we want to do is activate localized color clusters. Now that's made a bit of a difference, hasn't it? Because the localized color clusters actually activates this range dialog box. Now this range dialog box, remember we said the fuzziness slider is sort of the range of colours either side of the selected colour that we're taking into account. This range has got nothing to do with that range, and this is where a lot of people really do come unstuck with understanding this little puppy inside of Photoshop. This range actually refers to the spread of the area across the area of the image. So this range set to 100% means it's selecting colours with a fuzziness of 35 based on the original selection across the entire image area. So what we can now do is drop the range, and as you can see, it's like we're adding a massive vignette to the image, and what we're doing is we're dialing in and dialing in and dialing in on that area that we originally selected. So we've got a really tight range here, and what we want to do now is to see if we can tighten up on this selection at all. So I'll just move the colour range dialog box over there, and I'll go Command plus, and we'll lift up or zoom into the image somewhat. Hold down the spacebar key, just drag it round so we can see, and let's see if we can tighten things up a little bit. We've actually started to make an incursion, there's a fancy word for you, into this white mask, which is, to all intents and purposes, what we're creating here, where it's white over this shoe. So what we could do is we could go from this colour sampler to the, I call it the contiguous colour sampler. Yeah, you can click and drag with it, so it samples a range of colours. Yeah, and now you can see we've sort of got rid of that shadow. Let's drop the fuzziness slider a little bit to see if we can actually drop any more of these external pixels that have been selected. That's quite good actually. If we just lift the range up just a little bit, and you can see we're selecting an awful lot more pixels around. So if I just hit the down arrow key a couple of times, and there we go, and really and truly we're not going to get much of a better selection with this colour range tool on this particular task in this image than we've got already, because it was shot with, I think, a D300 on a kit lens, etc, etc. So the definition isn't absolutely spot on, and it is quite a small area of detail within the actual image file itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click OK to actually make that selection. So it's made quite a tight selection around these shoes, yeah, which is what we wanted. And we've got a spurious pixel glowing in there, which we'll need to fill in. And we've got one or two glinting away in this purple slipper, basically because it's got, with it being this colour, it's got some red content. Yeah, you have to remember that. And but it's just not really a problem. And I'll show you how to get around it in a minute. But what was the purpose of making this selection? Well, could be any number of reasons why, but what we'll do is we'll go and change into a pair of lurid lime green shoes or slippers, shall we? So we'll go ahead and click on the adjustments panels, and we'll go and activate a hue saturation adjustment layer. And of course, because we got that selection active, that hue saturation layer has become active with a mask. And if I hold down the Alt key and click on the mask, there you can see it. So this is looking really cool, and we've got these little odd areas here which we can now hit the B key, make sure we're painting with black as our foreground colour, and we can just go and remove those odd areas there, and the job's sorted. So if I now come back and I'll hit the backslash key, and then I'll go and click on the adjustment, and we'll just go and grab the hue slider in the hue saturation adjustment layer dialog box, and we will just shove it over to the right. Let's go plus 56. There we go. That's nice and lurid green, isn't it? Now if we stay inside the mask and then go and pick up our magnify tool, if we go in, we can see we've got one or two odd little areas just along this, whatever this white thing is here. So basically what we can do is just paint in with white, yeah, and inside the mask, remember the active component is the one in the blue highlighted layer with the actual corner braces highlighted around its edge, and these odd little red pixels are left over from the original selection. So if we just paint with white, yeah, rather like that, and like that, and like that, and then if we come over here, we haven't got any faults there, so if we go back out to 100%, it's not done a bad job, has it? So there you go. That's a basic introduction as to how the colour range selection tool works. I'll see you soon.